Welcome everyone to this very special episode of the Illinois Wesleyan University Titan Talks webinar series. I would like to wish everyone a happy homecoming. I am Adrienne Powell, Director of Alumni Engagement. While I would prefer to welcome you back to campus, it is gorgeous here right now. I hope you have enjoyed the virtual programming this week. We are thrilled to be able to offer so much wonderful content from the Titan community, and I hope you found ways to connect to your former roommates and professors and reminisce about your time at Illinois Wesleyan. We welcome your participation through the chat function at the bottom of your screen, and we will get to as many questions as we can. Along with all of the homecoming events, this will be recorded for viewing at a later time. I want to give a huge shout out to Sarah Vore, event coordinator extraordinaire, for handling all the technical aspects of the Titan Talk series and homecoming. She is a true rock star. Videographer Nick Helton also shares the Homecoming VIP award, as he has worked tirelessly on all of the videos. Thank you, Nick and Sarah. Homecoming could not happen without you. And now about tonight's session. We are incredibly honored to welcome Richard and Sharon Jenkins as our guests this evening. It's very difficult for me to not gush in this moment, but
Gush, come on. Go ahead.
I will say that I do miss the Fishers from 6 Feet Under, and I've watched Olive Kitteridge an embarrassing number of times. If you haven't seen it, please check it out. It's a masterpiece. But for now, let me introduce our moderator and my dear friend, Andy Kreiss. Andy graduated with a degree in music theater from Illinois Wesleyan in 1986 and is serving currently as our Director of Marketing, having come back home 3 years ago from careers on both coasts in entertainment and marketing. And we are thrilled to have him here. He was communications and marketing manager for the nonprofit Los Angeles Trust for Children's Health. And among his many stage performances across the country, Andy performed in the national tours of Sweet Charity and Pippin, and in Los Angeles landed roles in dozens of movies and television shows, including American Horror Story, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Mr. Deeds, and Scrubs. Andy, I am so glad to partner with you this special evening.
Oh, thank you. That is very kind of you. And I am thrilled to partner with you as well, Adrienne. Hey, everyone. I'm so thrilled. This is like a little dream come true for me. Let me start with some introductions here, and then we'll talk on the other side of that. Sharon Jenkins is IWU alumna from the class of 1969 and has been a choreographer at Trinity Rep for over 40 years, where she has worked with all 5 of its artistic directors, starting with Adrian Hall, Richard Jenkins, we know him, Amanda Dainart, Oscar Eustace, and Kurt Columbus. She has choreographed dozens and dozens of shows, in fact, more than 50, we'd say. Sharon spent 20 years as a dance director at Hope Arts Magnet School in Providence, Rhode Island, 15 years as a dance specialist with the Rhode Island State Council on the Arts, 10 years as a dancer with the Rhode Island Dance Rep, and 10 years as choreographer for the Arabella Project. A lot. In addition to her work at Trinity Rep, Sharon has worked at Long Wharf Theater, Arena Stage, Hartford Stage, Center Stage, South Coast Rep, and was the choreographer for a Paramount Pictures feature called School Ties. Richard Jenkins began his acting career in the theater at Trinity Repertory Company and later made his television debut on Great Performances on PBS in 1974. And his film debut in the Lawrence Kasdan film Silverado in 1985. He has worked steadily in film and television since and is perhaps best known for portraying Nathaniel Fisher, the deceased patriarch on the HBO drama series 6 Feet Under, personal favorite. In 2007, Richard was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Actor for The Visitor, and 10 years later, again received an Oscar nomination, Golden Globe nomination, and SAG Award for Best Supporting Actor for his performance in Guillermo del Toro's The Shape of Water. Richard won the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Miniseries or Movie for his performance as Henry Kittredge in the HBO miniseries Olive Kitteridge. one last thing. In 2014, we're almost done. You guys are so honored here. Richard and Sharon received the Pell Award for Lifetime Achievement from Trinity Repertory Company in Providence, Rhode Island. I am so honored to get to have this conversation with both of you guys. Really, I hope it's just going to be a conversation, and that's my goal. And so, let's have at it. I thought for our audience tonight, we might sort of frame our discussion in three sort of main areas: the early years and your time at IWU, the post-IWU years that get us to Trinity, and then the Hollywood years, with the full disclaimer to everyone listening that by and large, the Hollywood years take place in Providence, Rhode Island. For you guys, I'd love to point out that our audience is a mix tonight. We've got alumni, we've got current students from the School of Theater Arts, as well as just Wesleyan students as well. We've got some prospective students and family, and I'm really actually thrilled that we're going to record this. So not only for the archives, but so that we can show prospective families and theater students this as well. And then a large swath of faculty and staff. So there.
Time's up.
And the show's over. Let me say this. Before we even start, one of the things I was most excited when Michelle and Adrienne asked if I would do this, and Jean Kerr in the School of Theater Arts asked me if I would do this, was that in addition to bringing Richard to light, in a bit more up and close personal way, I was thrilled that I might get to shine a light on you, Sharon, an artist in your own right, the ways that you collaborate with each other. It's so great. And I spoke with current Trinity Rep's artistic director, Kurt Columbus, and the first thing out of his mouth was he said, Andy, let me just tell you right off the top, Sharon Jenkins is one of the greatest theater artists I have ever met. And I say that recognizing Richard Jenkins as one of the greatest theater artists I've ever met. She is one of those geniuses that quietly work behind the scenes and that people don't often get to see the depth of her brilliance. So.
Wow. I love that. Thank you, Kurt.
Yeah. So I just wanted to frame the conversation that's who we're sitting on the couch with, two really amazing artists. Sharon,
Yes.
you grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, is that?
No, I grew up in the city, right in the city.
Oh, in the city?
Yeah.
What part of South Side?
I was on the northwest side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I went to Chicago public schools.
Oh, wow. Okay. My mom's from the south side of Chicago. I somehow I had you in the suburbs, but that's neat. Did you grow up seeing theater? And did you study dance as a child?
I danced from the time I could walk. My mother, in a baby book, has written, I think Sharon's going to be a dancer because
Really?
she moves to music so beautifully, or something like that. And, I started as a little girl going to dance class, and then it just kind of kept going, and I got more opportunities to dance in different venues, and I did some theater in Chicago and musical theater. And it was just always, I just couldn't imagine not dancing. So it was just,
Oh my gosh. Was there a moment you knew that you wanted it to be your medium of choice, sort of?
I don't know that I consciously knew. I just, I knew I wasn't going to be an actor or an actress. I knew that speaking on the stage was not going to be for me. But that would have been just too mortifying. So
She was pretty good.
Dance was just,
I bet.
dance was just, where I felt at home. So it just felt like the right place. I so envy the fact that you got to go to a musical theater program, which I would have really loved that. That would have been where I would have gone.
Except you had to sing.
Well, I think I could have learned that.
Well, and I had to learn to dance. So if you can learn to sing, I had to learn to dance, which we'll talk about later. Richard, I've read that you went to movies a lot as a kid in DeKalb. Were you also in plays in grade school and high school? Did you do plays on the stage?
I did one play in 8th grade. I did one play in high school. I got like 10 lines. No, not really, but I wanted to be an actor. I don't know why. I would go to the movies and I would say, how do you do that? That's what I want. I didn't see any theater.
Okay.
I thought when I came to Wesleyan my freshman year, I went to see their production of Hamlet. And it just blew me away. I mean, I had never seen a Shakespeare. I had never seen people kind of my age up there doing this thing. So it was, but you know what, when I went to see a production of Bye Bye Birdie in Chicago when I was, maybe 11. I don't know how old I was, but it was Christmas time and my parents took me and we had gone shopping and they had packages under the chair of the seat.
Oh.
And we left and my mother said, I left my package. I said, well, I'll go get it. So I go back in. And I look on the stage and I didn't know what it was, but I assume it was an understudy rehearsal. And all these kids, teenagers, some probably in their 20s, they look 15, were on the stage laughing and running around and having a great time. It was like I had just seen heaven.
Oh,
it was like, yeah. And finally my mother came, she said, what are you doing? And I was standing there with the package staring at this.
Wow, I get that. I can imagine that was very, very appealing. Yeah. So how did you get to Wesleyan? And maybe it was the play that you mentioned, Richard, the Shakespeare, but had someone told you guys about Wesleyan? I'm so curious how you get from DeKalb to Bloomington, but also Sharon, how you got from the North Side.
I was doing a production of West Side Story in Chicago in Old Town.
Okay.
And my good friend that I had gone to elementary school, and then we were in 2 separate high schools. We were doing that together, and we both said we wanted to do theater as our life's work. Where could we go to study? And her guidance counselor said, there's a school in Bloomington called Illinois Wesleyan University. So I had that in my head. I went to college night at my school, and I sought out the recruiter for IWU and talked to him, and it was the only school I applied to. So that was it. So I've never really known about it except for my friend telling me. So.
Wow. And Richard?
Oh, well, if I'd known it was called IWU, I wouldn't have gone. But this is a new term. My guidance counselor in school I said I want to be an actor. And she said, what? Well, you should have something to fall back on, like being a history minor, which I never understood. But and Ripon College, and I looked at
Ripon, yeah.
And I just liked Illinois Wesleyan. So as soon as I went on the campus, I was like, yeah, I really like this place.
Isn't that funny? My guidance counselor was the one who got me here too. He had seen a production of A Little Night Music and said it was stupendous. And I was like, well, I'm going to go there then. And I had a brother here too. So that's interesting to me how paths, lead and change your whole life. So you guys get to Wesleyan. Do you remember laying eyes on each other for the first time? And when did you know that each other was the one?
She wouldn't talk to me for the first couple of years. I offered her a ride home once, and she didn't want to get in the car. But we knew each other from our freshman year.
Yeah.
And we acted in summer stock together.
Well, we were all, as freshmen, you go do all the theater classes with the group. So there was about 30 of us, I think. And so we just kind of all knew each other.
But,
and it was during summer stock.
It was during stock, yeah. We did it.
At Wesleyan.
Yeah, at Wesleyan.
Yeah.
At summer stock. Cool.
Yeah.
I think we've got a picture of a summer company where you're both on a ladder that we may be able to show in a bit, but very sweet. And I did summer stock too here. That was so great.
It was
a great program.
But after my junior year, I asked her out finally. This was my junior year, right?
Yeah.
We got a pizza, and I came back and I went to Craig Malstead, if you're there, and Larry Shue, their room. I went to their room. And I said, I'm going to ask her to marry me. I remember that was after the first date. Yeah. And
Sharon, wow.
But
there must have been some pizza.
It was really great. Yeah.
That's awesome. Wow.
I didn't think she'd say yes. Or I would, but yeah.
That's so great. That's beautiful. Sharon, I know that you pledged the KD sorority.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about what was the Wesleyan sorority culture or the general culture like there on Wesleyan then?
Well, I think the Greek system was pretty popular. I don't know. I don't know statistics on how many students were part of that, but again, a lot of my friends. It was interesting because a lot of the theater students, art students, music students that some people typically wouldn't think would go into the Greek system. Everyone was pledging, and so it seemed like a good idea to me. So
you did?
I did, yeah.
And Richard, you did not?
I did.
Yeah.
I was.
You did too?
Yeah. I was in.
I
was a Fiji.
Oh, you have Fiji. Oh my gosh. Okay.
I have a tattoo on my butt.
Oh, that's cool. Oh gosh. Okay. I'm glad to know that you.
In my dorm, four of us became friends. I think five of us.
Yeah.
And we all decided that we would. This is our freshman year that we would join a fraternity. And one of my roommates' older brother was a Fiji, so that's how we all kind of went there. Yeah.
I would be remiss not to ask where you got the pizza from back on the date.
Well, I couldn't answer. What was it?
I think it was across the street. There was a pizza place. Just an independent. It wasn't.
Sure. Okay. It wasn't Tobin's because everyone in my class is all about Tobin's.
It was Tobin.
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
It was Tobin.
That's great. Oh, that's great. Did you put barbecue sauce on it? Because that's what you have to do.
No, it was a pizza, Andrew.
That's what they do, Richard.
At IWU?
At IWU. That's what we do. That's awesome. I was thinking about, the times that we're living in feel so volatile and challenging. And you guys were here during some really turbulent times as well. And I wondered if you remembered anything about that particular part of campus life, what was happening in civil rights, or did theater just absorb you guys such that you were in a bubble?
So we were in a bubble.
Yeah,
the whole kind of the Midwest at that time.
We had certainly had speakers come in. We had, some convocations and things, but I don't remember there was never a moratorium or a march or anything on campus that.
Okay.
If there was, we didn't know about it.
But there was palpable fear.
Yeah.
I mean,
and there was
of the draft or of
the draft
yes,
and the war
and
what was going on and
Sure.
But at the same time, we were in show business and
the show must go on.
And we were young and naive, and I was, and so until I left Wesleyan, that's when it kind of all hit me.
I see. So you're at Wesleyan. You're in the School of Drama at that time. Now School of Theater Arts. You're taking classes. Did you guys jump right in, Richard? Did you jump right in and get cast in all the shows? How did all that work?
No, there was a group called Theater Communications Group, and
at Wesleyan.
How would I get? Oh, I'm sorry. I already moved on to, but no. Wesleyan was I had no experience, and I've told this story many times, but I had no experience, and you had to audition for everything. You had to sign the board, and I didn't audition for anything because I was terrified. I saw all these people, wonderful actors and talented, and I just didn't know what to do. At the end of the year, John Ficca, the head of the department, called me in his office and he said, "Who are you?" I said, "What do you mean?" "Well, I know you're in the school and I know you're in my class, but you haven't auditioned for anything. Why?" I said, "I don't know how. And I thought you were going to teach me."
Oh,
kind of smiled.
Which is really actually quite a good
That's a great answer.
And he said, "Okay." He said, "Do you want to do this?" I said, "I do. I'm just terrified." He said, "What are you doing this summer?" I said, "Nothing." He said, "Summer stock. Come to summer stock." And I actually left the department once and came back in my freshman year, because I was so intimidated. But I wanted to do it. I just didn't know how. So I went to summer stock and I did a couple of small things badly there. And he said, and at the end of summer stock, if you want to do this, you have to participate. But if you don't, you have to make room for somebody who does. And I credit him for a lot. But at that time, really, it really was a help. I mean, it was just amazing. So.
That's so interesting. Yeah, he was really, and I think he might be on tonight, but he was a formidable force for all of us in my class too. And I know that being in one of his classes was an amazing thing. And then to be directed by him in a show was very special as well.
He was, you know, I mean, to have him say to you, I think you could do this, you know, it just meant the world. It was, you know, he was an amazing man.
Yeah,
Still
he
is,
was.
but
He
he's
still
amazing.
is.
Still is.
Love him.
Sharon, did you have?
I auditioned for everything. I didn't get in anything.
That's not true. I have pictures. You did.
I did summer stock.
Yeah.
And I think a few people had pity on me a few times and let me be in something very small.
She wasn't.
But,
She wasn't. Come on.
I never did. I didn't do anything to speak of, really.
Well, we played.
Well, that was summer stock.
Yeah, we did
Yeah.
summer stock together.
Yeah.
I've got pictures of you together in the Fantastics that I saw.
That was summer stock. That was our
Okay.
summer stock.
Okay.
Yeah, I did 2 summers of that, and so we did a lot of. We did musicals, and anytime we did a musical, I was involved. I know, in a couple of times there was a Moliere that we did, and
Yes.
a dance in the middle of it, and I
Yes.
did that with Jim Fox.
Yeah.
So I mean, there
Yes.
were those moments within a play where they might need someone to dance, and there was my best friend at the time. She and I were always like the 2 dancers that were used a lot.
So I got to jump ahead because so Wesleyan is blessed in a lot of ways, but one of the ways it's blessed is it has an archivist that is a genius, wonderful person. And her name is Meg Miner. And she actually hooked me up with so much great stuff on you guys. I mean, seriously, but one of the things that I found was a review in the Argus of the would-be gentleman that you're talking about. And you get called out in this, and I have to read it because it's just great. So in the review, it says, they convince Mr. Jourdan that Cléante is the son of the Grand Turk who wishes to marry Lucille. They also promise to make him a mamamouchi in a mock Mohammedan ceremony featuring Tom Roth as an hilarious mufti who leads the Turkish dancers in a rhythmic ceremonial chant. This is the best scene in the play, and the audience response, good during most of the play, reached a peak of enthusiasm. An especially electric interlude comes when Jim Fox and Sharon Friedrich perform their violently sensual dance.
Oh my gosh.
Sharon, what gives?
Oh
Well,
my.
she's gonna do that this evening for me.
So stand on the couch and give me
Really? I don't even remember ever reading that. That's hilarious.
violently sensual, Sharon.
My gosh. I don't remember doing
That
that.
was
at
part
all.
of our vows, our wedding vows.
Hiding your light under a bushel, I think.
To violently, sensually take him to.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Isn't that awesome? So I thought I had to share that with you.
I appreciate that.
Richard, so I've got an interesting thing. So you sort of appear as this shy character in the story, not auditioning for things. And then I found in the archives, the Phoenix Coffee House sort of having its new, like it's being born while you're there.
Yeah.
And they're saying, and so then I find this write-up in 1966. The opening of the Phoenix Coffee House will be this weekend, and one weekend afternoon if there's sufficient demand. Tonight, Friday, the Thugs will present a program of all Irish folk tunes. Vocalist Sue Prosser will sing a medley of folk songs, and Dick Jenkins will do a takeoff on comedian Bill Cosby's act.
Yeah, I did. But you know, I did Bill Cosby before anybody knew who he was, and people thought I was so clever.
We had all those records too, Richard.
I got him early, and I did a lot of embarrassing things in my life, and that's one of them.
It's so fun to think of you, you know, like shy, but then I'm going to go do stand-up in the Phoenix.
Well, you know, there was a part of me that wanted to be a stand-up comedian, but then I realized I wasn't very funny, and that's an issue.
But, I mean,
That's not true.
I couldn't write material. I mean, I was not. My brain wasn't. But it was yeah. The Phoenix was an amazing place.
that was so.
It was an
such a
amazing place.
Wonderful.
We did
place.
Readers Theater there. We did Spoon
Yeah.
Mythology. They did the Fantastics Readers Theater. I mean, it was really an amazing place.
That's so cool. And by the time I got here, the Phoenix Coffee House was no more, but the Phoenix Theater was what it was. And so it was a space students could perform and do plays. And so it's a great mini teeny little black box underneath
Was
the
it
stairs.
Pfeiffer? Was it under Pfeiffer Hall?
Yeah, kind of back under there,
Yeah.
in the Memorial Center underneath that side.
Our daughter did a couple of things there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Your daughter, Sarah,
Yeah.
who came to Wesleyan as a student, which I can't wait. We'll maybe get to that. This is so fun, you guys. Thanks for going down this trip with me. I'm having the best time.
I'm glad you are.
Because take a sip of your wine. Drink
You
some
remember when
wine.
you did the Bad Bill Cosby routine? Yeah, I remember. We did.
Richard,
You know James Harms in Chicago?
I don't.
Very,
He
very
works a lot in musical theater in Chicago.
Okay.
He was in, was it the Brian Dennehy production of Iceman that went
Yeah.
to Broadway?
Oh, and I saw that.
he went to Illinois
He went
Wesleyan.
to Wesleyan, a beautiful singer, wonderful
Yeah, and he
singer.
was performing a lot at the coffee house.
And
He was a few years older.
And I used to do, I don't know, Renee Fair and I did something one night with James singing. And yeah, but
Wow.
but
Look at that.
it was, I have no idea. Maybe I was doing Shecky Green. I don't know what
I love that you were just pilfering other people's acts.
Right.
I was doing. Great place.
Richard, I've heard you say that Alfie was an important movie in your world and in your life, and that it sort of in some ways set you on a trajectory. And I want to say that I had never seen Alfie. And in preparing for this interview, I watched it. In fact, just 3 nights ago, I watched it. Never seen it. Blown away. What I have to say is that I notice real similarities between you and Michael Caine in this way, that you're both so direct, that you're both so truthful, that you're like unadorned, and that you're so centered as an actor. My question, I guess, would be, was that a conscious choice to emulate him, or did that just sort of happen? I was so struck by how good he was, but also how good you are and were.
No. Things come along. As you get older, you realize that things come to you at a time in your life when you need them. And it just happened that I was at a crossroads, and it was like, am I going to be an actor? Can I do this? Is this possible? And I don't know, if I have anything to offer. Really, that's, do I have any talent? Is this, or am I just going to make a fool out of myself for the rest of my life, which has kind of come true. But, and I went to the theater not knowing what was playing. And there was Alfie. And it was the downtown theater. Was it the Bloomington? What was the name of the theater?
I don't even. There was
Is it
a
the Castle Theater, or it could have been
maybe the Castle. Yeah.
But I sat there, and something about his performance. I didn't have the wherewithal to know why I liked it. But I just thought to myself, if in my life I could ever do something close to that he moved me so much.
Yes.
And the fact that he was not a good man, he was this.
No, it's true.
This guy who totally misunderstood what life was. And yet it was absorbing and moving, and it just changed me. It's something I just said, I needed that then.
Isn't that great?
When I was doing a movie in London, they said Michael Caine is on the next soundstage, and I ran over there, and he had just left. I missed him. I've never met him.
Oh God.
I think he's brilliant. I've always thought he's brilliant. Yeah. But that performance in Alfie was
It is amazing.
extraordinary.
It reminds me of your work as Nathaniel Fisher. It reminded me of your work in The Visitor. I mean, just so direct, so unadorned. It was perfect. So
Well,
that's really cool.
It wasn't conscious, but thank you. I mean, to be compared
Yeah.
with Michael Caine is certainly an honor.
Well, I see it. I see a similarity. I know that you guys went to school with Larry Shue, and for those maybe that don't know, playwright of The Nerd and The Foreigner, among several other really great plays, and also a wonderful actor who we so lost sadly in 1985. I wondered if you guys could talk a little bit about him and what it was, what sort of the magic he had, and what it was like to be with him and you guys together.
Well,
Um,
he was just unlike anyone else in the whole department. He was just singular, hilariously funny and clever, and yet sort of odd looking, because he looked middle age almost as a college student. You know, he kind of looked like he didn't belong age-wise with us, but yet he was just a wonderful, wonderful guy. Wonderful.
There was something about I mean, when I say there was no ego there, of course we all have egos, but he never pushed his way to anything. He didn't have to. It's not that he would have but it's not who he was. He just was there. Larry was there. He was the most talented person that I had ever come in contact with, and maybe ever. This guy was, you know, it's one of these, you just wanted to see what his life would bring,
Right.
because he could do anything, and not just he was a fabulous actor. He was a fabulous actor and a brilliant writer. We did a children's show that he wrote.
Yeah.
In fact, Sarah, could you, would you mind popping that three photos in? And keep talking, Richard, over this, but I found some photos of the play that he wrote, a musical, My Emperor's New Clothes.
Yeah.
And can you see, I'm hoping you can see that, but there's Sharon, and I think, is that Craig?
It's Craig, who was Larry's best friend.
Yeah.
They were best.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think Craig might be on the call tonight. And then, and there's you, Richard. And I love this. There's another one coming up here. But I want to hear you guys talk about, does this trigger any memories or special feelings?
It's like, kids love this show.
It was so clever. He wrote all the music, all the songs. The lyrics were phenomenally clever. It was, you couldn't believe it. You know, he could do that. I was working in the music department on an opera, and he was doing some stage managing work or something. And he was writing funny lyrics to the opera while it was going on. I mean, he was just so clever.
Brilliant.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Sarah. There's Craig on a
Yeah.
beer being carried to something without his clothes on. That's great.
Yeah, and then we performed it for the students, and they went crazy for it. I mean, because it was really funny. It was really funny.
Yeah.
And it was so clever in the best sense of the word. It was,
Well, and in the archives, I found the review of that, and it is amazing to read. Clearly, the review is a rave, and it's so fun to read that. One of the things that I read about that he was able to do was rhyme the word orange, which I think
he did.
like crazy, you know.
He did.
So fun. But let me say this, Richard. Here's something great. Thanks to
before we get I just worked with Ed O'Neill.
Oh yeah, sure.
And
Modern Family, everybody.
Modern Family, yeah. And I said,
children.
We're talking about greatest actors we'd worked with, and I said, "Who is yours?" He said, "Larry Shue."
He said Larry Shue.
Yeah.
Larry Shue did a production of David Mamet's play, Lake Boat. And actually, David Mamet in the script dedicates the play to Larry. And Ed said, I understudied Larry. And then he said I had to go on and do it or something. And he said, I just basically did an imitation of Larry. He said that. But he said he was, for me, the greatest actor I'd ever seen.
Wow. Well, I know he was getting ready to open in The Mystery of Edwin Drood when the plane went down. And that would have been his Broadway debut, I think. So sad. Go ahead, Sharon.
interesting thing, the person who took over for him was an actor at Trinity, who was one of our dear friends, George Martin, who took that role.
Sure.
Incidentally.
And you know what's so interesting, because that's right when I was going to New York, and I saw that production several times. That it's so wild how the world works, but I would have seen Larry in that show.
Yeah.
I have to go back to this just for a second. So the rave in the Argus about My Emperor's New Clothes contained this about the man on the left on the couch there. Laurels for top performance go to Dick Jenkins as a Royal Army cook, butterfly collector, secretary, and street cleaner, a role which demands not only versatility but endurance, while the same dashing character in each of his royal positions. Jenkins' extremes of mood, occasioned by his love for Princess Farthingale, are superb. His movement, always appropriate, is foremost in making his performance superior. The Princess, a romantic but modern femme, has Sharon Friedrich well cast, while Craig Malstead plays the Emperor with proper aplomb and endearing humanness. So there you go. They were spotting you early, Richard.
Well, I usually carry that with me. I didn't bring it tonight, but that was
that should be in your clippings. You should keep that. I know for me that some of the very best friends that I have to this day, I met at Wesleyan, and honestly, they are. Do you guys, are there friends that you made here that you keep in touch with? I'm thinking maybe Craig is one of them.
We do. We don't see them as often as we saw them when they lived in Chicago, and we were going back and forth a lot when we visited our families, even when we lived in Rhode Island.
For those of you who don't, Craig's married to Jan Thornley, who was in our drama class, was a drama major with us.
Okay.
Wonderful actress.
Yeah, wonderful actress. And so, yes.
So we would see them then. And then we just kind of got caught up in our lives in Rhode Island. We exchanged Christmas cards and things like that. And we know that they're down in Florida, and we occasionally are down in Florida. We've been connected to Dennis Brown.
Dennis Brown, yeah.
The last 2 years.
And there's a man named Jim Kent, who was a fraternity brother of mine, and another fraternity brother named Jim Prim, and Randy Dewar. These people, I mean, I try to keep in contact with them. You know, they're actually better at it than I am, but yeah, we have a lot of.
We're not so good about keeping in touch sometimes.
It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
You know what I'm real.
We saw this winter.
Yeah.
Who was a couple years older than we are.
James Tutorius. I'm sorry you cut out for a minute. Oh wow, that's great. So cool. I'm realizing that I could talk to you guys forever, and I'm going too deep into this part, but let's get you to Rhode Island, shall we? Well, first of all, let me ask you this. You got married right after graduation?
Yeah.
And did you already have a plan that you were gonna, I guess, my question is, how do you go from majoring in theater at Illinois Wesleyan and saying, I'm gonna pursue this career and I'm gonna get married? And how excited were your parents?
They were really thrilled. No.
You know what? We didn't think too much about it. That's what it was. We just did it because we wanted to do it. It was just
so great.
That's what we wanted. He was at Indiana University in a master, was MFA program?
Yeah, it was a touring company, it's a theater company that toured, and I was in the MFA program for a year. And we just decided.
Like 2 summers in a year. 2 summers in a year,
yeah. And we decided that we didn't want to be apart. So we got married fast, and we gave no thought to anything. And then I was driving a laundry truck in Illinois,
such a great
Wisconsin, and I had a job offer. There was a thing called Theater Communications Group. That's where I was going earlier.
Yeah.
I had jumped 4 years, but and the colleges sent their students to audition in these, and Wesleyan sent me, and I didn't get past the first round, but I realized what a mistake it was, that it was really important, because every regional theater in America went to these auditions, and they so I went to Indiana, I did it again. And
got,
long story short, we ended up at Trinity Rep in Providence. And
okay.
I was hired as an apprentice. And I was hired at Long Wharf as an actor, and then they said, well, we stopped our program. So I was like, but anyway, I got a job at Trinity Rep.
Well, all the regional theaters at that time had companies.
Yeah.
And so you were joining a company as an apprentice, and if they liked you, they made you a journeyman, and then they moved you into the company.
Sure.
So we drove up to Providence.
Yeah.
We thought we'd be here a year.
Oh my God.
You know?
Incredible. Incredible. There's such a great story about the laundry truck, and and how it ends up that you end up driving it with John C. Reilly's dad, or working for his dad, or something like that. I don't know if you want to tell it.
Well, it's just when we were doing Step Brothers, about a week before we stopped shooting, we were sitting around one day, and I knew John was from Chicago, and I said, so John, what does your dad do? He said, well, my dad died when he was 59. He said he had an aneurysm, and my wife met him a couple of times. My kids don't know him and didn't know him. And I said, well, what did he do? He said, no, he was vice president of a laundry.
Commercial laundry.
A commercial laundry. And I said, huh, my father-in-law worked at Union Linen. He said, yeah, my dad was and yeah, I said, oh, hello, your dad was John Reilly, which was I said, he was my boss when I drove a truck.
Oh my God.
And I said, he terrified me. And John said, he terrified me too.
That's good. Oh man, that's awesome. Let's see. You guys, when you got to Trinity, you met a really important, I think, figure in the way you, I think, perceive theater and what it can do, and his name was Adrian Hall. Could you guys talk a little bit about the philosophy that he taught you, or that you absorbed there, and how it plays into your life in the theater there today?
He was an amazing guy. He was not dead; he's still alive. But basically, his question was, what can the theater do that nothing else can? Why do we try to not do what the theater can do? In other words, what's the thing? It's the actor and the audience. Why do we separate them? Why do we get in the middle of it? Why do we try to push it away? Why do we frame it? Turn the lights out, make distance. He said, and you know, naturalism in the theater to him was he didn't understand it. It was like, because he said, you know, you have to have a real house in a movie. But in the theater, it's a Peter Brook line, but it's true. If an audience knows, if you tell an audience this milk bottle is a baby, an audience will go, oh, okay. As long as they know what's expected of them, they'll go anywhere with you. So the possibilities are extraordinary, and he's just explored these possibilities. He would make a boat out of people. He would find a way, if there was a door, he'd find another way. There's a famous thing in this play we did called Brother to Dragons. It was a Robert Penn Warren epic poem about Thomas Jefferson's nephew who killed a slave, his own slave, and chopped him up. And it's this horrific thing. And so what Adrian did is he brought a butcher block out with a big piece of meat and a fluorescent light, and hung an actor next to him upside down. And as this guy cut through this meat, the actor would scream, and bone chips were flying. And it was, for me, you thought, oh my, that's as close as you will ever get. I don't care what a movie does with the gore and the blood and the fake, but this conceit was the best, closest you could get to violence without having
violence.
And you know, that's theatrically just blew my mind and changed the way I thought about what the theater is and what it can do, and how you do it. You know, he hated turning lights off in a scene change. He said, if you're going to be, he said, everybody knows what you're doing.
We know what you're doing. Yeah.
So make it part of who you are and what it is, you know. And when I direct, I like to find ways to change scenery so it's part of what's going on in the piece. And Sharon and I, she's been choreographed. I mean, he liked me a lot, but he loved her. I mean, he loved her, and he always, he just, where's Sharon? Get Sharon.
Well, he would use music and dance in the oddest places. You know, he would choose. We had a wonderful composer who was his dear friend, and he said, I need something here to just make this moment live a little more. And so say we were doing the Scopes trial one. What was Inherit the Wind?
Inherit the Wind, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they talk about an experiment with mice where they taught mice to do something. And so he wanted me to give this dance to 3 actors to be the mice at that moment because they were trained to do something. So he had Dee Dee Cummings, the composer, create some music there, and so sometimes I was only used for maybe 4 or 5 small moments in a piece, but he helped me to understand that how can you make this moment live? What can you do to help the audience understand this moment? And we'll do anything. We'll sing and dance. We'll do anything to make you understand it and get it, you know. So, and that really informed how I kept going back and finding ways to do that. And it took me a long time, but I think I know how to do it now.
I think you must. And what's great about that is it sounds like then that convention in a musical that many people hate, where it's like they burst into song or into dance without a reason. It sounds like he's motivated a reason there, and you can...
Yeah. Well, I've always, you know, even as a young girl, it never, I remember going with my friends to see West Side Story, and so many people laughed in the audience when at the end and Tony's dying and Maria sings to him, like, why would you sing? Well, she's not singing. She's pouring her heart out.
It's grief.
That's when words are no longer enough, you have to sing. You know, you have to go to the next level.
Right.
So that's what he did within plays that didn't have music or dance. He'd add that.
And with him was Eugene Lee, who is maybe one of the great scene designers of ever. Who was Peter Brook, worked for Peter Brook. And did the original Sweeney Todd, and he did Wicked, and Eugene is the guy.
Yeah.
But he creates a world. And
environment.
I remember one day they brought a truck on. We were doing Troilus and Cressida, and there was a truck, a cab of a truck. It looked like
a pickup truck.
Yeah, it was like an army truck that had been. It was a roadside bomb had blown it up, and it was at the side. But it was very a really important part of the structure of the scenery. And Adrian said, I heard him say to Eugene, he said, you know, Eugene, I lose the actors behind the hood of that truck, the roof of that truck. I can't see them. When lunchtime came, Eugene's got a blowtorch and he's cutting the top of the truck off. He just took it off.
Like there's nothing sacred. You can change anything.
What's more important is you have to see the people on the stage. That's more important than any scenery or
And that is so powerful.
The first thing that I ever directed was Billy Bishop Goes to War, which is about, it's a concert piece where a guy comes out and he sings. He's a World War I pilot and he has a piano player, and he talks and sings this concert piece, and it's really fun and it's great. So an actor named Peter Garrity wanted me to direct it, and I had never directed before in my life. And so I showed it to Eugene. I said, Eugene, how do you do this? I don't understand. Do we do it with a curtain and propellers? And I don't know. Things to the audience. And Eugene said, well, just let me read it. I said, well, I don't know. I think maybe if you hung pictures of World War I pilots, he said, just let me read it.
Let me read it.
He read it. He came back and he said, we'll do it in a bar. And I said, I don't understand. What do you mean? I said, they're on stage in the bar. And he's talking to the audience. He said, no, we'll do it in a bar. He covered the seats over in the theater, and he built a bar. And you came in to a bar, and if you wanted drinks, you have a drink or beer or hot dogs, or there was a pool table and there was a piano player there. And this guy comes walking in the bar. He sits down to the bar. He's talking. Everybody's singing with the piano player. He comes over and he starts singing. And then the piano player plays a song that nobody knows but him, and he sings the first song of the show. And he says to the people in the bar, something happened to me today I want to tell you about. And he tells the story of his life.
And then this show starts.
And that's the script.
But Eugene knew that the acting partner was the audience.
I see.
So he put them all in the same room.
In the style.
And for me, you know, and it was this, it was a huge hit. I had nothing to do with it. I mean, that's one of those things where it taught me a huge lesson about, and I remember Peter saying to me once, you know, I need to fly a plane, so I need a prop. Peter, you're in a bar. I said, you don't get that. You figure it out. So he'd get a pool cue, he'd get sit in people's laps. He had hats on, and it was joyous and fabulous and alive, and you couldn't get it anywhere else but in the theater. And
Isn't that?
Yeah.
Couldn't do that in the movies.
No,
No.
no one would stay.
No.
This is so fantastic. Sharon, one of the things that I've fallen in love with you during this research is because I am a person that has brought more than one choreographer to tears. And what I learned, sort of on this very same theme, is that I gather and I get and have read that you won't let any actor do be saddled with a step that doesn't make them look good or feel good. And if it's about telling the story, that's what's more important. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I started working at Trinity, and there was no one in the company who was a dancer or a singer. I mean, there were some people who had some nice voices, but at the time, there was not one person who could dance. And so Adrian wanted me to come in and, you know, do these moments. And in some cases, the first thing was an actual musical. It was an original musical based on the life of Amy Semple McPherson.
Oh, sure.
And I was supposed to create dances for that. And so I think I probably, I don't know if I failed in that, because I was actually trying to make them dance. But I found very quickly that, that it was pointless to try to make them struggle right foot, left foot. You know, I mean, trying to remember complicated footwork when I could get them to move in a way that elevated the moment without having them feel awful about doing what they're doing. And so I became very adept at working with non-dancers.
Oh my God. Well,
and I remember then the first time I had real dancers, I was like, I don't know what to do. I kept doing these really easy things, and they were doing it so quickly. I thought, how can, you know, but I kind of balanced that out.
That's so great. That's so great. I'm running out of time. Richard, here's something we got to talk about. Richard, during your time at Trinity, you became the artistic director for a 4-year period. I understand, among all the things you did that were amazing, you brought the theater out of the red and into the black. Can you talk about, let me ask you this way, what skills does it take to be able to do that? And might that be any of your liberal arts training hard at work?
I didn't go to a lot of classes. Yeah, we went. It's dumb. A lot of it's luck. Here's what happened. When it was in trouble, real trouble, like, are we going to open again? Trouble. I said I would do it for a year as the interim artistic director. The last thing I wanted to do was be an artistic director. And then I would call and talk to Adrian every night. And he said to me, it's going to be so hard to get these people to come back because they had a terrible year and had a rough time. It's so hard to get them to come back. I said, oh no, Adrian, they'll come back. They love this place that you watch. You know, it's hard to get them. They can leave like that, but to get them to come, and he was right. It took 4 years, but it's interesting when you have no money, nobody complained. I mean, that company worked harder than it just was. Everybody just, it wasn't me. I didn't do it. I just happened to be the guy who was there when this happened. But that company and the staff and the fundraisers and.
But he inspired them.
I was going to say, yeah.
You know, I mean, you know, the guys in the shop would say, you know what, we'll straighten the nails. Yeah, we'll reuse them. We'll reuse sets, and we'll. You know,
it was incredible. It was an incredible time. And it was terrifying because it was like, hey, can we make payroll this week? Can we do it? And it's a big theater. I mean, it's a big theater. And, but slowly they started to come back. And I think it's, you know, some of these actors did brilliant work year after year, show after show after show. And, you know, it does teach you that sometimes there is justice, you know, not often, but once in a while there's some kind of justice. And I'm glad I did it. I would never want to do it again. Running a theater is just, it's just too damn hard. I mean, it's just too damn hard, especially for somebody who really wants to be an actor. I was not but I directed everything. Sharon came in and did everything for free. We just did it, you know, but it was an extraordinary time. And I learned a ton, about, you know, I had some bad habits too. We had to do things so fast and just get it done. But it was an extraordinary time. It's almost like a blur to me now, you know.
Well, it was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
Thank you for talking about that. And somewhere in all this, you had kids. How did you do it? And how are you still married?
Well, they aren't mine. That's the only way it could happen. No. You know how we had, you know why it worked? And yeah. I mean, when Sarah was born, I was terrified. I wanted to be in film. I wanted to be in movies, and I didn't, and how do you do this? So luckily I got into them, but I was gone a lot. And when I took over the theater, I was gone there, and Andy was born. But I had an assistant who Andy would come down, and the assistant and Andy would build something in the shop. You know, he was a little boy. And, but Sharon was, she was.
Well, we work together, you know, we're a team.
That's great. That's awesome. You know what, we got to go. So you guys have co-directed a couple times. And I'd love to talk, if memory serves, you've got Oklahoma and you did Oliver. Okay.
Yeah.
We've got a clip from Oklahoma that I think demonstrates several things. And Sarah, if you'll cue it up, but one of them is Sharon's brilliance, but the other is sort of maybe the Adrian Hall sort of technique you're talking about. I'll be quiet. Here you go. So great. So great.
What can the theater do that movies can't?
Right.
How do you put a clothesline on the stage and not just put a clothesline on the stage?
That was the challenge to how to get the clothes. Well, you know, traditionally Aunt Eller's churning butter. That's the what the stage director did.
Right.
Well, we didn't want to do that because how do we get a butter churn out there, first of all? And we didn't want her to come out with a clothesline, and we didn't want the clothesline to be there at the beginning. And so you know, I always have, before I start a show, there's always one or two sort of images that I had. And that was one of them, of having this clothesline with the clothes, or, you know, the things hanging on the clothesline as part of her skirt, and then having her chaîné turn and then open that all up. And just, that was just from the beginning an idea that worked. So,
you know, it gives me shivers, the economy of it, and then the delight. You can hear the audience delight at the discovery of it.
Every night they were just like, oh my God, they got it. They, you know, they knew it.
And then right after that, the lights went down to black, and up, stage left.
Stage right.
Was it stage right? Or
Yeah,
it was stage right. A match lit, and a lantern lit, and the music started, and the dawn rose, and Oh What a Beautiful Morning started to sing. We started in pitch black. So like the sun was just coming up. That was Eugene's idea. You know, one day in rehearsal, he turned to me and he went, that's what we, it's like, yes, Eugene, that's great. So Sharon's incredible hanging of the clothesline, and Eugene's beginning of Oh, What a Beautiful Morning. It was really beautiful. It was magical.
Wow. So cool. Thank you so much Kurt Columbus let us share that. And I'm so glad. I hope the audience could see it and it didn't lag. Sometimes I know that can happen. What's it like? You guys have you're demonstrating, I think, the answer to this, but what's it like to work together? Do you agree on things? Do you agree on casting? Do you ever talk about, like, do you disagree? Do you battle it out? That sounds harsher than I mean it to.
Well, our aesthetic is the same.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, we have, you know, we have the same aesthetic. We kind of grew up under Adrian and kind of developed together. And, you know, we'll just talk about moments, and I'll think things sometimes more visually, or, you know, in terms of how it might look on the stage, how I might see it as a picture. And he looks at it from a different perspective. But we agree pretty much even on casting.
Yeah.
And
we take a script, and which when I directed, I never did this, but we read it out loud to each other. We talk about it sometimes for a year in advance before we start working on it. So it's an incredible jolt to the creative system. I mean, you get your juices going for a year, and we did that with Oliver and with Oklahoma both. We spent a long time thinking about it. How do we do it? What, you know, and you know, it's just it's fun. In fact, I don't know if I will direct again, but I wouldn't direct without Sharon. I wouldn't do it. I mean, we're co-directors. We because I just don't want, it doesn't really interest me anymore. Now she'll do a lot without me. But,
well, I work with Kurt. I've worked with Kurt.
Well, I was going to say, Kurt said he doesn't want to direct without you either, Sharon. So
well, we do a lot. We've done a lot together. We just did a production of Ragtime about 2 years ago. That was great.
Yeah, I was able to see that production. Beautiful. And what you did with the newspapers on the dress and the
thank you.
So great, so great. I got to get you to Hollywood so that we can. So there are people chomping at the bit that love you and want to ask you guys questions. So I want to move us to Hollywood, although I could talk to you forever. So Richard, I find it so fascinating that your first love was film, that you obviously trained on the stage. How did that work, and what was the experience like for the first few times you were in front of a camera? Were you thrown by it? Did it feel natural?
No, I always liked it. I always liked it. And the reason I liked it was there's a lot of stuff going on before the take. Lighting and hair and makeup and costume, and people are touching you and feeling and moving, and there's a lot of stuff going on. But when they say action, it's yours. It's just yours. There's nobody bothering you. There's nobody in your way. There's nobody. I mean, it's yours, and you're there, and it's intimate, and I loved it from the first time I knew I was going to love it. I don't know why, but I did. I knew it, and it's still for me, and also I do it once and I don't have to do it again. That's another thing that
you don't have to do it 7 times a week, right?
Right. I mean, it's funny. I mean, acting is something I always believed when I began on the stage that you had to work your way into something. You had to rehearsal. You know, you produce something in the 4th week of rehearsal. Well, that's just not true. You immediately start to figure it out and to let it happen, to see where it goes, to see what's it. And that's film is, you know, that's one of the great things about film. I mean, once they say action, you know, until they say cut, it's up to you.
God, you know, that's so brave. The nerves that would happen for me when, as you know, all the people touching me, yeah. And then it's like, dear God, I got to do this now. And it seems like you embraced that and were able to like find the peace in that.
Well, I mean, there are times when you finish and you go, that was really awful. that was really, but you know, and when you're starting out, they'll just move on. You know, they move on.
Oh yeah.
But after a while, you say, "Excuse me, could I do it again? I'd like to do it again." And that was terrifying for me. The first time I asked that question,
Ooh.
You know, because everything stops and they're looking at you. Because, you know, the truth is, they say, could you speak up? And they say, could you move over here a little bit? The light's better over here. And could you not move your head so much because the camera's kind of close? And by the end, you're like this, you know?
Yes,
and,
yes.
And I understand it, but it's like, you can't do everybody's job. I mean, it's like, and finally you say, yeah, I'll speak up, and then you don't. Because you realize what's important, it's, you know, but it takes a while. It does take a while, but I learned from watching some of the really fabulous actors, you know.
I went and watched Silverado the other night just to see you, and and it's amazing. There's a moment with Linda Hunt and Brian Dennehy that he's sort of breathing down your neck, and you actually turn away from the camera when I thought you have a moment where it would be logical that you would put your face in the camera, but you didn't, and I was like, wow,
what an idiot. What's the matter?
I thought, this is a guy who's so like in it or so secure that it was very powerful to see you not look into the camera.
Well, here's the reason. Because it looks like an actor looking into the camera. To me, you know, it's like if you're walking and talking, and I've seen this, and you walk, say you're in a big hallway and you're walking and talking, and there's this big post that's really wide. You're in a courthouse.
Yeah.
And they're walking and talking, and they get to the post, and the camera's on the other side of the post.
Yes.
Following them, and they stop talking behind the post, and then they start talking again and it looks like they're waiting until they get to the other side of the post.
Right.
You know, it's things like that are accepted film behavior. That's accepted
Conventions.
that
Yeah.
you have to be careful of, because it for a moment takes the audience out of where they are. They don't know why, but it's just that, the life goes out of it for that second. That second turn to look at the camera, because that's what it needs now, is to look at, that's when the life goes out.
And and I guess I didn't mean like looking at the camera, but even look at Linda Hunt. So you would have been in the camera.
I know what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying. And I'm going to do that again.
Well, I'm sure Linda would be thrilled. Here's a question for you. You've worked with some of the top directors in the field: Mike Nichols, one of my very favorite, Sidney Pollack, Catherine Bigelow, Guillermo del Toro, most recently. Here's my question: can you tell when a movie is going well and it's going to be a hit? And have you thought this one will be and it didn't, and one that you didn't think did?
It's funny. I never stop thinking those things, but I never have a clue. You just don't. I mean, nobody does. Nobody knows. And I remember Guillermo, and we were at the Venice Film Festival, and no one had seen his movie before, The Shape of Water. And he turned to me and he said, if they don't like this, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I said, Guillermo, because this movie is your heart, and you're putting your heart out there in front of 3,000 people now, and they can stomp on it or they can resuscitate you. But nobody knows. Everybody was telling Guillermo, this is great. You don't know. There's this, I mean, I always say it's not finished until somebody sees it, whether it's theater or the movie. I mean, it's there's somebody watching it. It's not
totally.
Finished. You agree. It's wonderful, and I saw Shape of Water, and I said, Guillermo, I think it's your best film, and he was like, but I don't know. Nobody knows. You just don't know. But movies you think are going to stink usually do.
Oh, good. You can tell that.
Yeah, that's your kind of, not always, but you can, yeah.
I've got some, let's see, it's 7:09. We're supposed to end at 7:30. I should open this up for questions. There are a few questions that some of our current actors have sent in, and I'd love to ask you those. This is an interesting one from Zoe Mendoza. She's a junior BFA acting major, and I saw her in 2 plays this last year, in The Life and The Last Days of Judas Iscariot. It's wonderful. Since most of the actors' preparation for film work is done on their own, how does one prepare for a fantasy-based content for fantasy-based content or things that don't exist in real life, like The Shape of Water, is it mostly the actor's imagination and descriptions given in the script, or does it take more input from the director and being on the set to fully realize and understand the vision?
Well, the thing is, you do a rehearsal alone, and she's right, and that's hard. That's really hard. Sometimes when we did the movie The Humans, we rehearsed together for 3 weeks because we shot it in big.
Yeah.
But usually you do rehearsal alone, and it's hard. So you have to be careful not to come to too many decisions before you get there. And you're in the room with the creature, with Sally, with Michael Stuhlbarg. You just have to resist. You get ideas, and sometimes those ideas lead you astray because it's not what you thought it was going to be. And that's the thing about movie acting, is that it is all about the moment. It just has to be alive. It has to be real.
And you have to be ready to change.
And you have to be ready to change.
Yeah.
And not married to something that you can't undo, right?
I mean, it becomes round peg in the square hole if you don't. But what happens is you see the possibilities. If you're open, you walk into a space that you haven't seen, to a creature you've never seen, and all of a sudden, if you're open, that's when the ideas start to happen, and possibilities start to come alive.
I wonder if perhaps your greatest skill is being open.
Well, if it is, it's something I've had to work at. I just knew that when it's one of those feelings, when you do it, you just want to keep doing it. It's a feeling you just want to have more, but it's the easiest thing in the world, and it's the most difficult thing in the world.
Right.
It's
You're letting go, and
you're
you
letting
have
go.
no control.
You're letting control go, and wherever this
And
goes.
That's scary.
Terrifying and exhilarating, probably both. Yeah. I've had moments of it, but
Yeah, and when they say cut and go, what in the hell were you doing?
and then do you feel ashamed then?
But it's really hard when you're young.
Yeah.
It gets easier if you've been nominated, and that's
Yeah.
And that James Cromwell said to me, "You'll find now that people, when you say something, go, oh, that's a good idea." Before you were nominated,
They wouldn't have. They'd be like,
just going
on.
It's true. It's really true. You haven't gotten any smarter, but it's
That's great.
hard for a young actor to.
That's great.
And I love it when I see them just trusting it. It's fabulous.
It is. It's such a beautiful thing to see.
I hope that
I'm sorry.
Hope that answers her question.
No, that was, I think she'll be pleased with that. I notice she's listening here. Let's go to, gosh, we didn't talk about The Visitor, which, here's the other thing. Okay, I'll end with this. I promised him a little red carpet in our, rehearsal to red carpet. What's it like to go to the Oscars? What's it like to, and I want almost Sharon, I want to hear this from you too, but what's it like to go that gauntlet, run that gauntlet?
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. The Oscars are unlike any party you've ever been to. And the reason it is that because everybody there respects it. They respect the film, the work, they respect the Academy. And everyone is there to celebrate each other's work. Everyone is so supportive and happy for anyone's success during the evening. But I mean, it's just this grand party, and everyone, just so much. There's so many people, though. That's just an unbelievable thing. How many?
But the whole awards, it's a big period. It starts.
Yeah, it's months.
Globes, and then it goes.
It goes to SAG Awards, and it goes to the Independent Spirit Awards.
Spirits, yeah.
Choice Awards, and it's just, and then finally it's the Oscars. But when it was The Visitor, and I was complaining about all of the press I had to do, and she said two things. She said, if someone had told you when you were 21 that this is what was going to be happening, you would have kissed their feet. So shut up.
Shut up.
Good
for you, Sharon.
She said, if you're going to do this, do it with good cheer or don't do it. But don't complain.
Oh, Sharon.
Yeah, I mean, really.
And that it was like, yeah, you're right. And so we embraced it, and we had
We
a
had
ball.
so much fun.
And
Oh.
we had for the Shape of Water too.
Yeah.
We went to Venice. It was just
That was all those film festivals, Venice and Telluride, and
Right.
and then you're with the Searchlight people that were the publicists on
fabulous
that.
people.
Were just so wonderful, and we just got to know them all, and we always had dinners together.
And I love Octavia. I love Octavia. I love Sally, and I love Guillermo. And it was we just became it was just great
friendly.
fun. It was great.
So great. I hung out a tiny bit with Octavia in LA, and she is amazing. So I'm going to turn it back to Adrienne to open it up to questions. I want to say thank you at the end, though. You got to give me a minute at the end, Adrienne. But let's let everyone in the room and get excited.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have so many people that are just excited to see you, classmates of yours. At Consui Chen said that they missed you last year for your 50th reunion. And so I want to make sure that you got that message. Dr. Ficca is, of course, watching.
Oh,
Hey,
hey, John.
People who are saying, hello, Dr. Ficca. So, so that is
so great.
Yeah, it's like big family here. I love it. Since we're in the Hollywood phase, we had a question that asked if there was a role, Richard, that you passed on that you later regretted.
Michael Corleone.
No.
You're teasing.
No. I don't. I haven't regretted. Yeah, that it's you make yourself crazy if you do that. If I passed on something that I passed on wonderful roles that I knew I didn't have anything to offer that role.
Yeah.
So I don't have regrets like that. No,
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah. Going back to Illinois Wesleyan, a couple questions for that. Someone mentioned streaking. Jay Palatiner? I don't know. Is there a streaking story from Illinois Wesleyan?
Not that I know.
Okay.
Streaking was later. Streaking was like in my childhood.
Yeah.
Maybe he was projecting. I'm not sure. And someone asked, because your time at Wesleyan wrapped 3 theater directors, could you characterize the difference between the administrations of Dr. Ficca, Tucker, and Ascarigi? I'm not sure if I'm saying that right.
I think it wasn't Ficca all. I mean,
No.
Dr. Tucker was there our freshman year.
Okay.
And he was kind of moving out. He wasn't.
He was an older man.
And,
Very, he always wore a suit and tie, very formal.
And Jim Ascarigi was the costumes designer and taught costume and directed. But did he run? I don't think he ran it.
I don't think he was.
It was John Ficca all 4 years.
For us.
John Bergstrom came in as an instructor and a director, and Jim Ascarigi and John Ficca.
Well, we were all afraid of John Ficca, though, but we're not.
Yes.
Yeah, John, I'm not.
We're not afraid of him anymore.
Yes.
Yeah, he is a force for sure. Here's one from somebody in the Matthew Fecco. What was your goal for your future when leaving school, and how did that change over the decades? When did you feel fulfilled in your careers?
A week ago Thursday, I think. I wanted to work as an actor. The truth is, we didn't know.
We didn't have a plan.
None.
We didn't say, in 10 years, we want to be doing this.
But
we just kind of put our head down and started working, and it took us where it took us.
But it never occurred to me to do anything else. So I think that was, I never said, well, if I can't do this, then I'll have, it never occurred to me not to do this. And I know a lot of people I went to school with decided, nah, it's not for me. I'm going to do something else, and did very well and are really happy. And I just had nothing else I could do. I mean, the options were not big. So.
Well, I'm not sure, but you've done okay.
Luck, the other thing is, Sharon and I talk about this, luck is huge. Huge.
Well,
And being prepared for luck, which you guys were, I think. You know, you were ready for it. It's cool.
yeah, that's a very good point. Have you ever worked with fellow alumnus Frankie Faison?
Never worked with him, but I run into him all the time.
Oh, really?
I haven't seen him in a while, but yeah, Frankie. Yeah, we run into him in New York, and Frankie's fantastic. And there's another. It's a fabulous actor. Frankie's a fabulous actor, and has had a really terrific career, and it is not done. He's got a lot left in him. I think what's he doing now?
He was on a series.
He's on a series, yeah.
Yeah.
But we email back and forth once in a while. We got together. We had lunch in New York, and but I haven't seen him.
Yeah, wow.
What about Kevin Dunn? You did work with him?
I did a movie with Kevin Dunn. I love Kevin, and as another terrific actor. This guy,
Yes.
He's like really good. So we did this movie together, and I said, "Where'd you go to school?" We were having lunch one day. He said, "I went to school in Illinois." I said, "Where?" I said, small school in Illinois. I said, "What was the name of it?" He said, "Illinois Wesleyan." I said, "How's John Ficca?" How do you know John Ficca? And then we started talking. And then another guy who adores John Ficca is Kevin.
Yes.
Definitely.
I know when Kevin comes to town, he stays on John's pull-out sofa.
Yeah, he's I mean, he appreciates what he did for him. He appreciates.
So many of us do. Ooh.
And and Kevin is oh man, he's really good. He's a great guy too. He's a great guy.
That's so cool.
Sharon, what are your favorite aspects of choreography and putting together a dance piece?
Woo. Well, I always like to think about what the moment is about. It's not, for me, it's never, I've got this much music and I've got to come up with this many steps. Because the truth is, if I decide I don't want to do any steps, I won't do them. I mean, I'd rather have one simple movement, that shows what the moment is, than a lot of complicated stuff. So it just depends on, it's just finding out what the moment's about and how I can bring movement or choreography or dance, whatever, to help illuminate that moment and make it stronger, bigger, greater.
It's finding the heart of the piece, it sounds like. Yeah, that's great. And back to you, Sharon. As a dancer, did you get to enjoy visiting the set of Shall We Dance?
I did not get to do that. No, I didn't, unfortunately. That would have been fun, but did you do that in LA?
No, I shot it in Canada.
Oh, right, okay.
Okay. Let's see. Is there something you wish you had done in the beginning of your careers that you didn't do?
No,
I don't. Do you have regrets? I don't have.
So sometimes I think I might have liked to have gone to New York and done maybe a couple of Broadway shows, see if I had, auditioned. I mean, it wasn't like a burning desire, else I would have done it. But sometimes I think about, I wonder what that would have been like, but it's fine.
Yeah. And Richard, when you were trying to act in films, did you find that connections helped you in your path, or was it just a great number of auditions, or both?
Connections are overrated.
Really?
Yeah, they're overrated. The only thing you can control is your talent. That's all everything else is just up in the air. You may know 50 producers, but if you're not any good, it's not going to do you any good. And it's a weird way. You always think, if I get to know people, that will help. It just doesn't.
Yeah,
it's
what are they? Yeah.
I mean,
meeting and greeting people.
Yeah, that doesn't go anywhere. I mean, you have to say what can I control? What's in my power? It's how, if I stink, I gotta improve. Not spend my time trying to meet agents. I have to get better. And that's the other thing, is like, what do you want out of this? What do you want out of yourself as an actor? How do you see yourself? What's important to you? You know, and once you start, for me anyway, once I started believing that I had something to offer, that I wasn't here trying to copy somebody else, that's when things started to change for me.
Do you measure your career pre The Visitor and post The Visitor?
I measure it pre Witches of Eastwick,
Okay.
post pre 6 Feet Under, pre The Visitor. It's like you have moments where you think
Yes.
it's changed for you.
Yeah.
And you know, every time you kind of go along, and then something happens, and all of a sudden, oh, it's just something. Yeah. And so
Okay.
those are the things you look back on. You, oh yeah, after that happened, then this happened, and after that happened, then this happened. If I hadn't done that, this wouldn't have. So,
Right.
yeah, that's.
But you do along the way. I mean, in theater as well, you do work with people, and people tend to like to work with people they like and are comfortable with. So you do make connections, and sometimes you get asked to do plays or films because somebody has you had a
you had a good working
shorthand,
relationship.
you got a good working relationship. Those are always important. Never be, difficult.
Don't be a jerk.
You don't be a jerk.
Yeah, right.
Let me be the jerk.
There's a quote.
I said, somebody said, it's like, if you were Marlon Brando, I might put up with it, but you're not,
Right.
It's true. That's true.
There's one more question that I'm curious about, that a fellow Titan asks. What is the movie role that you're proudest of, that you're most proud of?
I don't have one. I have 4 or 5.
Yeah.
I mean, The Visitor, which, Tom McCarthy, he changed my career. But, and while we're talking about it, is my agent, Rhonda Price, who also since Tom McCarthy, who said, Tom McCarthy, you have to see all of his movies. She read his script, and she made him watch my movies, and then he hired me. So Rhonda Price was huge.
Well, and that's a good story about Tom.
And he wrote it for you, right, Richard? I mean, he did.
He wrote it for me, and he called me up, and he said, I wrote this part for you. I'm going to email it to you, and I want you to tell me if you want to do it. And I read it that night, and I never do this. We were in bed. I was reading it. And I said, Sharon, you have to read this. And she said, why? I never asked her to read stuff. It was like, no, I don't want to read it. I said, well, you have to tell me if it's as good as I think it is. He read it, and she said, mm-hmm. Next day, he called me up, and he said, do you want to do it? And I said, Tom, nobody's going to give you the money to do this movie with me in this part. And he said, that wasn't my question. You let me worry about the money. Do you want to do it? And I said, yeah. But it was,
that was a huge break.
It was huge.
Tom was.
And it was terrifying. That was terrifying, but beginning it, starting it, we rehearsed for 3 weeks, and we, but until he saw something on film and realized that maybe we had a movie here, it was terrifying, but it was just fantastic. It was, yeah. And I mean, I did a movie called Bone Tomahawk that most people haven't seen. It's a violent, weird.
Somebody had a question about that. I saw just Bone Tomahawk.
And I loved making that movie. I loved the part, and I loved the group, and it was great. Shape of Water. I loved 6 Feet Under. I loved Olive Kitteridge. Olive Kitteridge was just a dream from beginning to end. And Fran and I had worked together. We were friends, and she called me and asked me to do Henry. She said, I want you to do Henry. And Guillermo sent me an email. I'd never met Guillermo, and he said, I want you to play Giles. Please read the script. I hope you love it as much as I do. And that was the email. And I read the script. The next morning, I sent him back a text and said, I think I do. And that was it. But those are those. And then I think after we're done, I'll think, oh, that other part that I love doing. I can count on my 4 fingers the things I've hated doing. I've been fortunate. I've been really lucky to play different parts, different kinds of parts. People say you're everybody's typecast. I mean, I can't play Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I mean, I would love to play his life story, but I can't do it. I mean, it's a fascinating life, but I can't do it. Yeah. So but I've been really fortunate to work with a lot of great people, and you know, and if I ever forget that, I have someone to remind me.
And you do. I think this is a good way to sort of end this, is that a Kurt Columbus quote about you, Richard. Talk to anyone in Hollywood and they want to work with him, because he brings what he brings is so essentially true. Richard Jenkins' great gift is being in a room and receiving what is in that room and knowing what is genuine and useful to tell the story and what is bullshit. He's the king of calling bullshit. He never lies. And I thought, that's,
Oh man,
I'm sorry to end this homecoming thing with the word bullshit, but
oh, that's very
That's so
yeah, that's very
nice.
sweet.
That's so nice.
yeah, and I think it's really true.
What's that old saying in theater and acting? You know, truth is everything, and once you learn how to fake that,
You've got it made, yeah. You guys, may I please, just on my behalf, for the entire extended Illinois Wesleyan family, say thank you. It was a kick and a half to talk to you. Someday I'm going to come out there and I want to have a glass of wine with you in person.
That'd be great. Thank you.
I hope
Great.
you're so welcome. I hope that you can feel that the Wesleyan family is so proud of you, that we're pulling for you, that those of us that are in guilds are voting for you, that we see ourselves in both of you. And I just want to say thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you
sir.
so much.
And everyone has to know how important that school was to us,
Yes.
and is to us.
It still is, but it meant everything to us. It was the best place ever. I mean,
For us, it was perfect. Yeah.
Perfect.
Oh, so great.
You
So
guys
great.
are-
Adrienne, I'll let you close it out.
Absolutely. You all are such a gift to us, and thank you so much for your time, sharing your stories with the Titan community. We are all so proud of the work that you are doing. I hope you have enjoyed this very special episode and will join us for the virtual events coming up this weekend. We've got a conversation with alumnus and pediatric cardiologist, Dr. Todd Godowski tomorrow. And then later tomorrow, we'll hear from Professor Scott Ferguson and David Rail to discuss the challenges of directing choral music this year. Thanks to everyone who attended tonight. I'm going to go home and watch 6 Feet Under. Stay healthy, stay safe, and stay vigilant.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.